Right, good evening, everyone. Today is the 28th of October. This is our full council meeting. If you would stand as you're able to help us get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Kriegnoff, could you start with the roll call, please?
Ms. Brewer?
Here.
Mr. Fisher?
Here.
Dr. Fisher?
Here.
Ms. Crimer? Absent. Ms. Nail?
Here.
Mr. Michelson?
Here. Is there a motion to excuse Ms. Crimer? She did notify everyone that she would not be here tonight. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's see, so for the agenda, there's a couple amendments that I am aware of. Our presentation from former Mayor Alan Zafiro is being shifted to our first executive committee meeting in November. And then there may be a recommendation concerning that presentation made to council at that next full council meeting, but we will not be speaking this evening. I would also like to add a executive session at the end of the meeting tonight for matters of personnel and compensation. Any other amendments to the current agenda as listed? If not, I'll ask for a motion to pass the agenda as amended.
Motion to pass the agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes to be approved from September 23rd of 2024. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those? Any comments, any additions?
Other than setting the agenda and adopting it, doesn't say who first and who second, but I don't remember who did it either. September 23rd?
Yes.
Eric wants to task me to go back and watch the first 5 minutes. I can.
It's not critical for the record.
That's fine.
I can go back and look at the video if you really want, but
No.
that's not I would say that's not an action item.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Right.
See if we can probably pass these together if there's no comments or needs for changes in the 1023 minutes.
No comments.
Motion to
Anybody else?
pass both 923 and 1023 minutes as stated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion on the minutes? Anything needed? If no, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I didn't print it. Okay, District Fire Chief Denny Meter, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
And please present your report.
So I did email village manager on the run totals for the month of September. Really nothing too much out of the ordinary in any district. The remnants of the hurricane didn't do as much damage as kind of anticipated. We went through that with Ike, obviously, much you know, several years ago, and it was it really was tough to deal with. This time, some trees and some wires, some couple trees on some roofs, but really overall fairly moderate damage and no injuries that I had any reports on. So that's good for the residents. Again, the runs are tracking about what we expected. We'll probably be close to 600 in Gulf Manor proper for 2024. Overall, the district we're down a little bit over last year. No real rhyme or reason to it that we can put our fingers on, other than we know some of the nursing homes in Deer Park haven't been calling as much, so that's a good thing. So that helps us kind of keep things on the road. You may have seen in our social media post that we received a grant from Firehouse Subs for new rescue tools. Those are the tools that we would use at auto accidents to take cars apart to help get patients out of vehicles. That's about a $40,000 grant. These tools are all battery powered, easy to deploy. They can take right off the truck, don't have to worry about the hoses or the hydraulic generator we used to use. It's replacing a set of tools that are about 24 years old. So we're quite excited for that. So plug for Firehouse Subs and the work they did to get that to us. So we really appreciate that. We're continuing to work to finalize our budget for 2025. So we'll have our final meeting of the year the third Tuesday of December at the Firehouse. We don't see a whole lot of big ticket items on the horizon for 2025. Some station maintenance, some ordering systems, just some kind of run-of-the-mill things that we've been deferring until we had a little bit extra funding. So we're looking pretty good in that respect. Probably the next big capital purchase will be an engine. Our current one is from 2008. So probably within the next 3 years, we'll start looking at putting an order in. They're taking about 3 years to get. So that's kind of our next big project on the horizon. And then finally, we will be out and about on Halloween night like we have been the last several years. We'll come down here around 6. We'll tour the town, pass out candy to all the trick-or-treaters. And it helps slow the traffic down. So I know the parents and the citizens appreciate that the kids are being watched a little bit more. So we had a great time the last couple of years, and we're doing it again. Hopefully the weather holds out. I think last year we had the snow shower about the middle. We were on Ardmore and also starting to get snow. So this year it looks like it's going to be kind of warm, maybe a chance of rain, but if we're not dealing with ice, I'm happy. So aside from that, I don't know if you guys have any questions or concerns. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Were you guys gonna be set up for trick-or-treaters?
We drive around.
Oh, just drive
yeah,
around.
We drive around Village. Yep.
Awesome.
We always did that back in Silverton Deer Park. I mean, as long as when I was a little kid, I can remember when to run the fire trucks. So yeah, we just kind of drive from street to street and try to catch as many different groups as we can. And
Great.
It's great to see all the kids. And again, it helps slow some of the traffic down on these streets. So it's good for everybody involved.
Awesome.
So we'll be out and about.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, excellent. Thank you so much for all you do and for your whole team that's there.
You're welcome. And I think there was I apologize, last month there was a little confusion. I did send an email that I was going to be out of the country. So it was a much needed vacation. So I'm happy to be back, and we're back to the grind. So, but appreciate you guys' time. And if you have any questions ever, please email, call. We're always here to help.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, a couple of things. I want to thank Jay Weevil for his annual Golf Manor Halloween map that he puts out. That any household, any parents can grab a hold of and know where people are putting out candy throughout the village. Jay Weevil has been doing this, I think, at least the past 3 years, might be longer. But each year I make a point of appreciating his efforts for that and saying that publicly. It serves our residents really well. Very thankful for the work that he puts in on that. Concerning the mayor's tree program, I'm informed that we have about a little over $3,000 in that fund, and currently I have 3 applications. I am going to, for this cycle, I'm going to close that application process. I've listed at former council meetings, anyone's interested in getting a tree with those funds. If the way that program works, if there are more applications than there are funding, then it goes to a raffle. Currently, it will not need to go to a raffle. So if you're interested in a tree in your yard, get an application into me within the next 7 days. And let's see, wanted to remind everybody that we're curating a list of residents with experience in grant writing. I will be turning over names that are given to me to the chair of this committee, Zach Michelson, Councilman Michelson here. And I know that former Mayor Alan Zafiro is on that list. And I don't have the list in front of me, but I know there's a couple others. If you are interested in being on a go-to list whenever we have a grant opportunity that the administration may not have the ability to juggle in a particular time period, this would be the short list that we would reach out to that would work in coordination with Zach, in communication with the administration to help get those applications done. So if you know anyone that has grant writing experience, please get that information to me or to Zach for creating that list. I'm also looking, I mentioned this at our previous council meeting, for 2 more members to our finance committee meeting to bring it from 3 to 5. I would prefer not to bring it from 3 to 4, but rather to 3 to 5. So I'd like to bring in 2 members simultaneously so that there's an odd number rather than an even number with 1 new member coming on. Yeah, if you have anyone that's interested in looking for residents for this, if you have any residents that are interested, please point them in my direction. I can help them with an application if they haven't already filled one out for volunteer service in the community. And for the election that's coming up, just for everyone's information, Metro Bus Services is providing free bus fare on Tuesday the 5th. So if you need to get to the polling station here or anywhere else, if I would think that people watching this broadcast would just be interested in the polling station here in Gulf Manor, but there are free bus rides to polling stations. Please help spread the word even outside of Gulf Manor. And that is all I have for my report. Mr. Hurth.
Thank you.
Just to build on what the mayor said, we had a meeting last week with the staff on protocols for election day. The Board of Elections is sending a lot of communication in terms of expecting Tuesday, November 5th to be very busy, possibly contentious. We've never seen that happen here. However, we're prepared and we'll be using the same protocol that we have in the past. Voters will come in the back door, will leave through the back door. That creates a 100-foot buffer at the front of the parking lot where people can campaign. And generally what we do is close the south parking lot to regular parking. That'll be all handicap parking that day, which works out well because then you don't have cars running into people as they're out doing their thing. So the polls open at 6:30 a.m. Tuesday, November 5th, close at 7:30 p.m. and we'll be prepared for it. The other thing that I would mention is Halloween hours for Thursday, October 31st, this coming Thursday. It's supposed to rain, I heard this morning, from 6 to 8 p.m. Our police department will be out in force that night with candy, is that right? And it's great to hear that the fire department will be out there also. I have, my report is in the packet on the website. I'll go through this with you. On infrastructure updates, Hamill Avenue project is complete. There are a couple of punch list items that the public works manager is working through with the engineer, but for the most part, the project looks great. The street is, if you haven't traveled, it is nice to travel these days. And that takes us to the next project for 2025, which would be the rehabilitation of Yosemite and Ridge Acres. Bids will take place sometime this month. I don't have a date yet, but we're expecting a late winter, early spring start of that project. So sometime likely in late December or in January, they will start with renovating those 2 streets. Just to allay anybody's concerns about it, both of those projects will include speed humps. I will need feedback from the police chief as to where those would be best placed, but that's happening. On municipal building improvements, you have legislation in your packet this evening to accept a contract from the John Jurgensen Company. This project started last year, and the intent of it was to improve the drainage around the municipal building to improve compliance with EPA standards related to the maintenance of our salt bin. It also will correct issues that we have when we have heavy rains. There's backup into the firehouse, which has created some maintenance issues for us. It'll be nice to have that taken care of. We've done the pre-work for this project when we did the Weehee Road construction project last summer. An additional hookup to the stormwater system was installed to the front of our parking lot. Now is the time to connect to that. And this project will accomplish that. We had anticipated the cost of this to be around $260,000 to complete. When we did the bid last month, Jurgensen's actually came in at $170,000. So it was quite lower than what we had anticipated. It's great that that happened because this will also be funded. It's a budgeted expense through the street fund. And I don't know, Mr. Pridloff, if you want to say anything additional about that?
Just that it supports road salt, and so it's the sections of the parking lot which are used for dropping off road salt and then loading road salt into our current vehicles and for the brine mixture.
So, and I would encourage you, if you haven't had a chance, go back and take a look at the cover that our maintenance department installed over the salt bin. That, along with doing this project, makes us compliant with EPA standards on maintaining salt in our municipality. And I believe I heard Mr. Putoff this evening say that we have 35,000 tons of salt in that bin right now. So we're ready for the first snow event that takes place. The Finance Committee did recommend going ahead and approving that contract, and that'll be in your legislation with Mr. Butler this evening. Next item is that engineering has been completed on improvements to Mayflower, as I reported in my last report to council. We are applying to OPWC for funding. This would be a project that would take place either in mid to late 2025 or in 2026. It would include restructuring the curbs, new pavement, and also new water lines on Mayflower. The OPWC funding would pay, we would get a 50% grant, and then the other 50% would be funded through a loan from OPWC, which is a no interest loan for 20 years, which is how we've funded most of our road improvements at this time. That project is included in our list of funding for the road levy for next year, and actually through the completion of the road levy. And this is also legislation that was in your packet to pass this evening to go ahead and make that application. The application doesn't cost us anything. When they do this is just a matter of finding if the project is actually, would actually be eligible for OPWC funding. The executive committee in the last executive committee had a discussion about moving forward on the Weehee and Elbrook intersection project. The administration is recommending to move forward with that because of the expenses that we're incurring on repairing the old technology signal lights and walk lights at those two intersections. This project would update the stanchions to make them tall enough to incorporate new technologies with LED lighting, better street markings, better, what I think is really important is better crosswalk markings for the school area. And bids will be requested on that project during November. So I've gone ahead and given the engineer the okay to go ahead and bid that project out also. I think everybody would be glad to notice that it is more comfortable in this room this evening than it's been. The HVAC improvements have been completed. Phase 2 of the project, which took care of adjusting temperatures on this side of the building, we had not anticipated doing that until next year, but we were able to incorporate that with appropriations that had already been made for this year. So that project is now done. And feel free to always let me know if there are temperature issues that you see, because we now have the ability to control those, which is a great thing. So the hall is no longer a meat locker. On Stover Avenue redevelopment, Hamilton County Planning has reached out. They would like to again discuss the housing study since we have new members of council. That's a matter of either setting that up at a time prior to a council meeting or on a special council meeting so they can go through those documents and their recommendations with the housing study. So I don't know, does this body wish to do that on a separate night? And this would be Liz Bloom and April Colelli from Hamilton County Planning would come out and present that housing plan again to us. So,
My preference would be a night that we have a meeting already.
I'm sorry, say that again?
My preference would be a night that we have a meeting that currently.
Already
happening.
scheduled.
Yeah.
So we could do it like at 5 o'clock on a, what does that do for everybody? 5 o'clock prior to, so it would be prior to an executive committee meeting if we did it on a council night, or we could do it,
How long is the presentation? Sorry,
it's probably about an hour.
All right. My concern about a 5 o'clock is we typically will have members of council that have difficulty being here at 5 o'clock given their other work commitments.
Is this the same presentation that she gave in the past, or this is?
It would be, yes.
When was the presentation given previously?
Sometime in the spring.
In the spring of this year?
Yeah,
It's actually listed on the Golf Manor website under the strategic plan section, along with additional notes.
Her whole presentation is there?
they would like to make personal contact, so they feel it's more effective to discuss in person.
I would be comfortable either inviting them to an already existing council meeting, either the one for November, or having to schedule a working session for them to be here in person. But I think it's important that we're making connections with them and keeping the ball moving. So I would almost rather have a working session.
Separately,
That's a big topic.
With the materials already online, you still believe it'd be an hour meeting?
I would plan for an hour just to be, so people aren't rushing.
I was going to recommend that everyone take a look at the presentation that has not attended the presentation in the past. Take a look at the materials that are available online, and certainly submit your recommendations to myself or to the village administrator. I don't know that we need to make the decision right now.
This started back in April, did it not? Like, at least, like, their initial presentation for these things.
Yeah,
And we've been, and like, the time frame has been very, very, very slow. And they've made multiple follow-ups with us. So I think it would be in this council's really best interest to stop delaying and take the meeting with them. And then use the time between whatever working session we set up to do the homework required to get ourselves up to speed.
You might not have, and council may not be aware of this, but there's some information from Ms. Bloom as well as from the county that we had requested back in terms of deliverables. So as far as us delaying, I am not aware that we're delaying on anything. We have not been getting information that we've been asking for. I've asked our legal representation to be reaching out directly with them to get the information that we've been asking for. We can discuss this further. I would prefer, I don't know if that would be appropriate for an executive session or not.
I don't think it matters. Actually, I don't think it would be appropriate, and I don't even know that we necessarily need to keep it a secret. I've made phone calls, I've talked to them, I've asked for what they said that they were going to give us, and I haven't got it yet.
Right.
So my next step is going to be to make it as easy as we can for them. We'll put together a list. I'm going to email it to them and say, can you please respond?
What are these items?
It's a list of 4 different things, one of which was various vendors that are available for we're talking about the development of the Stover area.
Right.
The area that we
Right.
own.
Yeah. I can speak to it.
Okay,
because
go
it
ahead.
was largely my request. So in this realm, we received a request for a memorandum of understanding, which I was asked to sign off on, and I had not been a part of apparently some discussions that were going on with regard to this memorandum of understanding, which was with the developer who wanted to develop. So they were asking for me to sign the document. Part of that memorandum of understanding stated that we'd be transferring Stover Properties for $1 to this developer, all right? I was very uncomfortable with that. That may be the way things are done. That, my understanding is that it's not legal to do that.
That I've looked into on my own, because they represented at the meeting that there was an exception, but I have found no exception, and I'm very uncomfortable. It's a matter of basically black letter law. A village cannot give away its assets because it's taxpayer assets, really. So we can't give it away. Now, there could be structured in some way to do it, but based on the way it's written, I would not advise it.
So I had asked the county about that specifically, and they, as I said, they had said, well, there's an exception where you can do this. So I said, well, we want that information about the exception specifically. I'd like you to meet with our attorney and talk through that so we're very clear on it. I don't like the optics. I don't think that that's ethical to be giving away property for $1, but if there's something that I don't understand here, because it's the first time that I'm dealing with this, then educate me on it. So ask for that. Also ask for a list of developers that they consider to be reputable, like who do they work with, who's like the four developers. In case we ever had a project that we wanted to do, we could reach out and say, you know, hey, developers, could you bid on these things? So I'd like to know who 4 big developers are that the county works with for municipalities our size. In addition to having that list of developers, I'd also like to have a description of how they selected those 4. So if we ever come across a developer that's not one of those 4, we'd have some kind of criterion to use for, are these good developers or not? So I asked for that. And also kind of a general statement on what are best practices for memorandums of understanding, because my understanding from the county was that memorandums of understanding are just things that are done with regard to development. And I would want to know, well, what are some best practices around memorandums of understanding? So those were the 4, if I counted that correctly, those were the 4 asks from them. And they said at our meeting, yes, we'll absolutely provide those to you. And then there's been no follow-up with that. So we haven't been delaying to my, if that's what this is about, there's been no delay.
I'm just
on our
asking
part.
questions.
Sure.
I don't.
Yeah.
My opinion is that if we have things on the table for them and they want to come and present in front of us, then as the administration is reaching out to perhaps make that arrangement for them to come speak at whatever date we end up deciding, we are putting forth this time that we are setting aside for you. In return, in order for us to facilitate this meeting, we need these things to be able to come to this meeting prepared. And if we do not receive them by X date, then this meeting will not happen.
I like that.
And then at least if they come to that meeting in any way, shape, or form ready to present, it is giving all of us with our various backgrounds of experience the ability to then also ask those questions that we have regarding the projects that they want to bring in front of us. So we're just looking to have that equal opportunity to get in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have any reservations on that. I would like to have the answers to the questions prior to meeting with them to ensure that we do actually have the answers and that we don't have people coming into the meeting and then saying, we have some answers, but not all of them. So I'd like to have those answers prior to us meeting. And with regard to having a meeting, I had brought up the suggestion rather than trying to find a particular date and time tonight, that maybe we ask our village admin to, with each of the council members, kind of work out what would be a good time to do that, whether that be a special session or whether that be a portion of an existing scheduled meeting between now and in the new year, and let us all know what would work. And then at our next, which would be like 2 weeks from now, I think at our next council meeting, is that right?
So
We could then decide on that.
So we're trying to move stuff to Mondays.
Yeah.
So we have 2 Mondays essentially that wouldn't be occupied. I wonder if there would be a motion to do a special session. Let people weigh in on that. And then if not, we'll schedule it for a regular council meeting.
Again, I would prefer to have the response from these folks before we actually schedule a date. If you're asking for a motion, just in general, could it be a special session? Is that what you're asking for?
That's
You're
what I'm
asking for a
asking.
specific date?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Is there a motion?
What are you asking for?
Whether you want a special session or have it attached to a council meeting.
Okay.
I mean, why don't we just do what she suggested? Let's pick a date, you request that information, and if we don't have it by that date, then we don't have a meeting.
As a special session?
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
way,
But let's
a
pick
special
a date,
session.
though. I'm being more specific than what you're asking for.
yeah, we give them the date, this is your time.
Yeah.
If you do not meet this, then you get punted like to the bottom of the priority list and we will come back to you when we are able.
I don't have a preference if it's a standing meeting or if it's a special session, though. But I think we should just pick that date and hold them to that date as well.
So the next council meetings are scheduled for the 11th and the 25th. The 11th is community engagement and executive. The 25th is finance and council. Would you want to do something on,
I believe it's the 18th and the 25th for November.
I think
The
I got
11th
moved from
is
the
a holiday
11th.
already.
Sorry.
Veterans Day.
It's the 18th of November because the 11th is Veterans Day.
oh, okay. So then Tuesday the 12th?
I could do that.
Yeah, I can do that.
At 6?
Recommended time, yeah.
6 p.m. on Tuesday the 12th?
Is there a motion?
Motion to host a special session for the purpose of discussing development of the Stover property on Tuesday, November 12th at 6 p.m.
And I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I take that as unanimous. Thank you.
Did you guys express some more enthusiasm? Aye, thank you. Something.
So for the North Weehee Development Project, that is complete now. We've made our final payments to the demolition company. And the next thing that we need to work on is we're going to acquire the property that's still existing there. We're having discussions with that owner and their attorney at this point to see if that's something that we can do. I have the park RFP in my report. It's not been forgotten. There are some details that need to be complete, and I believe the mayor has shared that with the members of council at this point. I think at the last meeting.
Yeah, it would have been a while ago. I think it went out by email to executive. I don't recall. Has anyone not seen that document? Okay. Yeah, so it must have just went out to executive.
So
Get
I
that
will,
shared with the right meeting.
I will send
council
out what I
I am not
have
on
in the PDF. There's some demographic information that still needs to be added to it that I haven't done yet, but it's information that's available, it just needs to be added. So I will just send this to all the council members.
members. Can we expect that in our inboxes by end of the week?
Yeah, I'll have by the end of the week. Yeah. From a personnel update, as I announced earlier, and this is a note from when I did this the last time. Renee Elliott was hired into our financial operations manager position. She has over 8 years of experience serving in financial responsibilities at the city of Springdale. And I have to tell you, she has been an excellent addition to our staff and has been very helpful in creating reports and helping Eric with the reconciliations. And you can weigh in on this if you wish to on how well she's doing. She was a find for us, and I think is a good long-term employee will be a long-term employee for us. One of the things that I need council to do is by voice vote is we need to appoint her as the tax administrator for the village. That's an important role because it allows when we have residents who have issues with their taxes or fees and they come to us complaining or requesting relief from some of those things from what Rita has levied on them. We need a central point of contact, and then she's also the liaison with Rita. So we simply just need her to be by voice vote voted and
Motion.
reported, appointed as tax administrator.
Is there such a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Renee as the tax administrator.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this? I was going to ask about what the distinction is, but you've already answered it between Rita managing all this and reaching out directly to Rita when there's an issue. I've actually been very happy with, because one of my concerns was, will our residents be able to talk to someone if they have an issue with Rita? And Rita's done a really good job as far as what I've heard from folks and from my own personal experience with when we've had an issue with understanding something that they're doing. They've always been very prompt and good in response to that. So I'm glad that was.
So an example there, I've had a request from a resident who wishes to contest fees that they incurred on late filing during COVID. That's not something that Rita would waive. Our tax board needs to make that waiver. So their first point of contact would be with our tax administrator. We used to call this the tax commissioner, but since we're not operating the tax program any longer, we don't need a commissioner level person. We just need an administrator. So Renee is doing this now anyway, but it would be nice just to button up what we need and make this appointment.
Agreed.
Is there any other discussion on this? Any other questions? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, take those unanimous. Thank you.
And then finally, this is a month or so late, but the website continues to be updated. I think there are two of you, Dr. Fisher and Mr. Fisher, who I still need to get pictures of. And if we can plan to do that at the next council meeting, I will schedule that. But I'd like to get your pictures updated on the website. Also, if you have any biographical information that you would like to, like 3 bullet points kind of size, that you would like to put on the website, we'd be happy to post that for you so people know who you are and that sort of stuff.
Were those updated currently, or everything still needs to be put on the site?
It needs to be updated. Right now, there's just placeholders with your names and extension and contact information.
Yeah, that all the council members, I believe, except Mr. Fisher and Dr. Fisher, had their photos taken. Have those been received back? My understanding was that council members were going to be able to pick which of the pictures they preferred.
Yeah, that's fine. It's,
Has that, I haven't heard any,
I haven't worked on it, so
Okay.
I need to move the project forward.
but we've received the pictures back from the,
I have a
From the
link, but they're
photographer.
not, I need to touch base with Jess because I can't access them for some reason. I've got the old ones, but not the new ones.
all right.
So we just need to make that happen. So you don't have to put a biography out there, but if you'd like to, that'd be a nice touch.
Anything else?
That does it for me.
Right.
A question on your report, though, going back to a previous item we discussed. The North Weehee development, have we had any conversations with anybody to start even thinking about the development process for that project?
So through April Galelli's office at Hamilton County Planning, she suggested that we have discussions with the Port Authority to look at potentially maybe turning that project over to them, which would put them in the position of accumulating additional properties. One of the properties that I would envision being a part of that collection would be the dry cleaner. And my understanding is the owner of that property contends that he's selling it for a lot more than what we have been paying for the other properties. And I'm not sure if that's a negotiation issue. We just don't know.
I'm afraid probably word has gotten out of the properties we're accumulating over there, so anybody in the vicinity is all of a sudden going to jack it out.
Have we-
So it may be a negotiating.
Turning it over to the port could be a good thing for us because it would get us out of negotiation of properties that are left.
Have we made any contact with the port or the county or anybody to set a meeting to have those discussions?
Not at this point, no.
What needs to happen for that to take place?
We need to tell them, go ahead and do it. And I think we were waiting on having an economic development committee to run that through.
Correct, yeah, I'd like to have one council member that's a point, that's always involved with the administration whenever there's discussions going on about this, that they can, so we have at least one member that's up to date on everything that's going on. I mean, ideally, the whole council will be up to date on things that's going on, so that's part of what that committee is about. But as far as any wait, any delay on it that I see, it has to do with us as a body being very clear on memorandums of understanding and things like that. So waiting to hear from the county themselves about what they consider to be best protocols around that as we move forward. So we're not making any mistakes and having to slow up the process because at the last minute we realize, oh, wait a minute, there's a request for $1, whatever.
Okay, so that's the MOU on we're going back to Stover. I'm talking North
No.
Yankee.
Yeah, but with any kind of development projects, us increasing our intelligence about what we need, what ducks need to be in alignment when we're moving forward with that. So
And what sources are we going to get that information to make ourselves more comfortable?
the county themselves. So the county themselves, because I'm thinking that they are the most experienced. We go to them when we're wanting help with these projects. So I was thinking they should be the ones that would be educating us on this.
Okay, so what has been done so far is what I'm asking.
Right. So as I said previously, we had a meeting. The three of us sat in on a meeting and asked our questions of them. They increased my understanding of the process, other than those areas that they said that they would get back with us on.
And that was the discussion that you guys were having about Stover and the MOU and broadly.
I didn't see that specifically about Stover, but the MUI that had come up was specifically about Stover.
Okay. What conversations have been had about engaging with the port specifically?
I might need to get back with you on that. I'm not certain. I know that we, in council, we've talked about using the port on a number of projects previously, as well as moving into the future on that.
Rob or Ron, do you have any additional notes on that?
I've had no discussions about
Comments with
engaging
the
the port at this point.
Yeah, this is the first I've heard about the port getting involved.
I am going to say, I have had this as a request on the agenda since May to engage with the port to have these discussions. And so if we are engaging, if we need to engage with the county to better our understanding of these topics, then we need to do it now. And so I would like to have either a conversation with the port, and I would like Ron to establish communication with the port to just say, here's what we have. We have parcels, we have this land at North Weehee that, we can do something with. We have holdouts of people who are wanting more money than we could possibly come up with. It's digging into our, our budget for acquisition and demolition of these projects. And so I would like to establish that line of communication with the port so that we can start asking questions, and not just for like you to ask your questions to get your understanding, but so that all of council can do that.
Yeah.
Same thing, and it's not just flowing through a committee because it's been out here for a while.
I have no reservations on that. I'm curious about, you'd said that you'd been asking for this to be on the agenda for a while. Who, were you sending those via email?
It's on our website as a addendum, and the one I'm looking at is May 20th.
On our website,
On our website under council packets.
okay. So,
And I've been talking about it in meetings for a while too. So I've been talking about economic development.
that's
And
why I'm
our
asking if you were asking for it to be on the
funds
agenda, and it was not being put on the agenda? Is that what you were saying? Or,
It was in the council packet as under the section of,
So it's one of your addendum reports, I
Yeah.
believe.
so I don't know where the fallout was, but it was submitted. So much so that it is on the website. And I've been asking for it verbally in meetings and we haven't done anything with it. So I'm asking pointedly now, whether I need to make a motion for it, but I would like to have, I guess I'm just gonna do it. I would like to have a motion to direct the administrator to open a line of communication with the port so that we can learn what our options are with these properties that we have
On the WEHE,
on the WEHE project.
do you have any reservations on that?
not at all.
Well, then I'd ask just that you make it so. Or we can pass it by motion as well.
I mean, I made the motion.
Motion's been made, so there needs to be a second, or it needs to just die.
And to be clear, it dying isn't dying. I'm
No, it's not
asking
dying.
the administration to go ahead and do that, to open a line of communication with the port. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I'll
Did
take
you
that
get
as
all that?
unanimous.
He looks intense. Anything else? Thank
So
you.
regarding Stover, so will there be, like a call for proposals for all this development? Or do you already have somebody in mind? How does this work? Is that the process? This is what we're gonna learn that process in the special meeting?
Yeah, my understanding is that absolutely there'd be a call for proposals for it. That's the proper way to do it legally.
Okay,
People can certainly approach us and say, hey, I got this idea, and then we can say to them, you know, there will be an RFP for this.
and eventually there should probably be one for Vera too? Is there gonna be some work done at the dead end of Vera? It's just gonna be one property? Okay.
That's not even a project at
No?
this point.
Okay,
And concerning, if it hasn't been said before, concerning the sale of properties, that's something that is supposed to or is properly discussed in executive session, not in open council meetings,
Okay.
because of what can happen to prices when we're discussing these things in open
understood.
council. Done with report?
I'm done.
All right, I have one more thing that I left off on mine, which had to do with Halloween, other things that are going on, not just on Thursday here in Gulf Manor, but throughout the community. One is that Findlay Market on all day on between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Thursday is having trick or treat going on their storefronts. So again, that's Findlay Market from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Cincinnati Zoo from 6:30 to 9:30. That's not free unless you're under 3 years old, and then it is free at Cincinnati Zoo. Basically, that's a lantern walk. They said they have over 5,000 hand-carved pumpkins there at the Cincinnati Zoo. Let's see, the Cincinnati, Hamilton County Public Libraries have a number of events. Tuesday, tomorrow, 6:30 from 6:30 to 7:30. The Marymount branch is having a Marymount Monster Mash, which is a costume dance party and scavenger hunt for children in kindergarten through 6th grade. That's free and no registration is required. Also on the 29th, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Hebron Branch Library. That's quite a drive onto North Bend Road. They're having a Halloween party that involves trick-or-treating as well as a storytelling walk. Again, the event is free and there's no registration required. On Wednesday, October 30th, from 4:30 to 5:30 at the Price Hill Branch Library, there is a spooky picture event where there'll be picture painting using salt and watercolors for children ages 5 through 12. Again, the event is free, no registration required. And on the two more events on the 31st, one is at the Friars Club. They have a trunk or treat, and the other is at the Westwood Branch Library. which will be handing out treats for those in costume. Sorry, I didn't include that in my report. Mr. Brinoff.
Okay, so we discussed,
Oh, sorry,
no problem.
sorry, my head was somewhere else. Never mind.
Okay, so we discussed financial packet for September for 2024. We also discussed the appropriations amendment, which is in front of you now. That is, well, will be in front of you during the solicitor's report. That is to compensate for increased overtime during the summer, which everybody remembers that meeting when many residents came to let us know how they felt about the goings on of the youth that needed to be stopped on Mayflower. So the additional overtime expenses incurred during that time period, as well as 2 resignations, one of them being a longtime employee who has a significant payout. All of those are unplanned for expenses, and therefore we are asking for an increase in appropriations for both salaries and pensions in the police department. There's also the appropriation of just over $11,000, I think it's $11,227 for police funding that came from the state. We created a fund in the last council meeting. This now allows that fund to spend that money in this fiscal year. That was money that was, again, not expected to come into the budget. But my understanding is that the state has started reimbursing that training on a more consistent basis, and we should see that as a line item every year. That'll go straight to that fund, and those funds will be included in the 25 appropriations, which are also in front of you. Lastly, there was increased activity through the service department, which did incur more costs. Generally speaking, it's been pretty quiet, but over this specific summer, building the salt bin cover and other various projects, the service department is asking for a modest increase of $10,000 in salaries and $2,000 in pensions to ensure that the overtime will be available if necessary during the coming winter season. Again, the intention of this is hopefully we never actually have to use it, but at least that time is available for employees and we don't have to worry about paying them when the end of the year comes. So the total ask, I think, is just over $70,000. 76. No, we said $76,000 between the 3.
And this further was recommended by the Finance Committee to full council.
That's correct. So that is the first piece. The second piece is the 2025 appropriations, which were published and are on the website. That does include an increase of 6% for the police department for this year, as well as a full pension pickup and increased overtime. The increased overtime, I took the initiative to include that in the appropriations, being that the last 2 summers, between all the auto thefts, as Captain Reed had mentioned, and the youth enforcement detail, which was enacted this past summer, again, two summers in a row of significant increased activity, that should be a budget. That should just be included in the budget. So all of that is included in this. But as Mr. Hirth said, it would be premature to pass it tonight, being that we have a significant election coming up with a 7-mil levy, which if that passes, then these appropriations are significantly are fine. If not, we may have to go back to the drawing board and discuss what that looks like moving forward.
And for clarity, this is not an increase in taxes.
Correct. It is just a renewal.
Right. Any other questions for Mr. Brennan?
Just a quick comment. I did get news that a letter is going out tomorrow that will, from the county, that will be announcing our portion of about $20 million that is being returned from the auditor's real estate assessment fund to local government, school districts, and other taxing authorities. So Golf Manor will be receiving $18,727.54. So this is essentially the auditor's office demonstrated immense fiscal responsibility in their real estate and reappraisal work. And so the amount of money that they collected was in excess of what was actually needed. And so they are doing the right thing and returning it back to the communities. So
Where did you hear about this?
little birdie told me.
This is very exciting.
It is very exciting. So those letters are going out tomorrow.
Cool.
Under the guidance of the auditor, Miranda?
Yes.
A scoop.
A scoop.
That's good news.
It's very good news.
It's not even on their website. I mean, that's very cool.
Mhm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
She's amazing.
Anything
Thanks
else?
for sharing.
Of course.
Oh, now okay.
I literally got it earlier today, so I did not.
Now
It
all
was
the
not
communities
anything
that are
new.
watching our meeting right now can go yell at the.
All the communities, all together.
All right, end of report?
End of report.
Okay, Chief Campbell.
Hello, I got the mayor's court report for the month of September. Was sent out, total to the village, $3,755. Total to the state, $797. $30 went to the county for a total of $4,582. It's the end of the mayor's court report.
Is there a motion to accept the mayor's court report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Also, related to mayor's court, I have the activity report, citation report for the month of September. 61 citations were written last month. Most common seems to be expired plates, followed by no driver's license. If you all saw that, if you have any questions, let me know. Also, I have the activity report for the month of September. So the police department responded to 453 calls for service. Nothing really jumped out as unusual for what we deal with. I think the number went down a little bit because people were back in school, what we're doing in the summertime. And you guys are doing a good job. The officer initiated calls were almost equal to the dispatch calls. So again, that shows me that the officers are out there being busy, doing things on their own instead of being sent to calls after the fact. And then you guys have the announcement for Officer Mullins' retirement. So his last shift is actually Halloween night. That's not how I would want to go out. But Friday morning after he works third shift, we're going to have a recognition of him here. We'll have a breakfast in the hall. I tell stories and make fun of him for a little while. You guys are invited.
Awesome.
And like Mr. Earth said, we'll have all of our cars that are running out on trick or treat, interacting with the kids, handing out candy. We'll do close stuff, but we do have close stuff, right?
When we order close stuff, hopefully it'll come.
Yeah. So yeah, we do that every year. We try to get as many people in as we can. Like the fire chief said, we have the lights on so that we're visible, trying to keep everybody slowing down. Missing anything, Captain?
No, I think that covers it.
Yeah, that's all I have unless there's any questions.
So Chief, you and Captain Reed attended training last week. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we attended training at New Mexico Tech. It was a post-blast investigation course. Very, very good training. We were both talking during the training that there was one day we were kind of dreading, and it turned out to be really, really informative. It deals with, investigating explosive devices, figuring out the origin, what type of device was used. It applies across, I think, speaking for myself, some of the things we learned apply to any scene we're on. It was good training. It's totally free. We send as many of our guys out there as we can. There's a lot of different offerings. Some of the trends that are being seen, it's like bad guys using drones, things like that. There's a lot of explosive courses. It's alarming how easy it is to create something that can hurt people with things that we all have in our houses. The training's really good for our officers because, those of us that have been through the training, we've been talking, and there could be signs that are overlooked of stuff that people have that we're not aware of. So it was really good training, and we'll keep sending people out there.
Thank
Are
you,
we
Chief.
fully converted to Sundance yet?
Sundance is working. We're using it. We started using it in the middle of last month.
Yeah, we're fully converted.
Yeah. You are fully converted? Yeah.
Final backup of Crime Star was performed last week, so we have not entered anything else into Crime Star. Everything is in Sundance. It is working smoothly. Training has gone flawless, so yeah, I mean, it's been good. I look forward to be able to give you more accurate information next year as far as monthly stats reports, things like that. We had some requests for, homicides, basically your big three, homicides, rapes, and robberies. And trying to pull that from Crime Star was like, forget it. We pretty much just told them zero because if there was homicide, you know about it, but it just, the way things are categorized, and I'll give you a more simple request. The fiscal officer wanted vehicle break-ins, right, Eric? Is that what it was? Yeah, vehicle break-ins. Well, Crime Star categorized them in like 10 different categories. So what we had to do is go to the comm center, and they had to put a lot of work in to go, through each call for service, figure out what a vehicle break-in was. Sundance better give us a look at that. And then they'll put together a nice pie chart for us and take all the guessing work out of it. So really excited, real appreciative of the long drawn out process to authorize that. We appreciate it.
You seem excited. You're welcome.
Yeah, it'll be good for us. I think so.
No, I'm glad y'all are converted over though.
And it made us grant eligible. So we are reporting our stacks to the FBI. That was confirmed. We've been doing that for about 3 months now. So yeah, things are looking good.
Thank you, Captain Reed. Thank you, Chief Campbell. Any other questions? All right, Mr. Butler.
There are several pieces of legislation in front of you. The first from your agenda is ordinance 2024-6. That is the ordinance that was printed off, described regarding amending the appropriations to cover some unexpected expenses. So it's necessary to amend the appropriations. It is an ordinance, however, because it's an appropriations ordinance, we only need to we don't need to pass an emergency for it to become effective immediately. However, we do need to suspend the rules to read it 3 times.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Say shoot. I'll second this motion.
All those in favor?
Okay, which motion was just made?
To read by title only.
Read by title only.
I was waiting on him.
We need one for not doing 3 readings, correct?
No,
Suspend the rules.
to suspend the rules. Both. You need both. He just
All right.
jumped ahead. He's just crazy.
A motion to read by title only and suspend the rules. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. Well, you usually do once. You already did the motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings, yes? No.
I'm gonna do a new motion. I'll have my motion, I'll do a new motion to read 2024-15 by title only and suspend request of 3 readings.
I believe it's
It's dash
2024-6.
Dash 6.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. Oh,
Dash
sorry.
6.
Is there any discussion?
So there was a request that the change in police salaries and pensions should come from the police levy, which that will be, I will put that in the minutes, and that change will be made.
Okay. I meant a discussion on reading by title only. Okay, that's fine. All right. All in favor? All right.
Ordinance number 2024-6, an ordinance to amend appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Gulf Manor for fiscal year ending December 31st on 2024.
Is there a motion? Pass.
So as discussion, as Eric did say, that we in finance requested that the money be taken from the police levy and not from the reserve. And there was room for that to be done, and it's, Eric will fix that.
So is it amending the ordinance is what you're saying?
It's amending the ordinance that the funds will be changed
Okay.
from the police levy instead of from.
So the motion should be to pass as amended.
Anybody have questions about, so this was discussed in detail during the finance committee meeting. Basically, there was a request for funds, and what was decided in the finance committee meeting was all well and good, just where we're taking those funds got shifted.
Now, there was, discussion of some maintenance stuff that will not come out of the police levy.
Correct.
That's not even on here.
That's separate. That's existing appropriations.
And just to confirm, the amendment is, where are we actually pulling it from?
So the amendment that we made, or that we're recommending, as originally written, the ordinance would take these funds out of our general fund to pay for it. There is room in our police fund, in our police levy fund, to cover these costs. And the rationale behind that was police expenses should come from police funds. And that way it also frees up our reserve and our general fund to, for whatever else might come, for general things.
It's a little bit
And it was
more.
not, the reserve was not ever a point of discussion.
The reserve was the original, meaning the general fund and the reserve are kind of one and the same.
Got it.
The original point was because the salaries that we're appropriating more for in terms of covering the old overtime, those are all paid out of the general fund. So the accounting is cleaner to pay it out of the general fund, but the request is made to take it from the police levy, which will require a little bit more fancy footwork behind in the back end on the accounting software. But that's perfectly acceptable source of funding. So in effect, it allows the reserve to grow whatever it's going to grow much more because it's coming from the police levy.
And give us more flexibility in case of emergencies come up, that our reserve won't be reduced for things that we have funds in place for.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion to accept or a motion to pass the legislation as amended?
Motion to pass ordinance 2024-6 as amended.
All those in favor, so it needs to be a roll.
I believe that's roll call, is
Roll
that
call.
correct? Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Dr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Mail,
Yes.
Mr. Michelson?
Yes, I'll be a doctor. It's okay.
And Eric, you
I'll upgrade you.
did I understand correctly, Eric, you wanted to hold off on 24s. We want to hold off on 24/7.
That's up to council, and I believe that made sense based on what we said. But from my understanding from finances, that was, the recommendation was that should wait until November for a vote. So that's ordinance 2024-7, for the 2025 appropriations. My understanding from finance was that is not, that should be voted on in the next council meeting. Is that correct, Mr. Fisher?
Table the next council meeting.
Right.
After, once the election, we know.
Yeah,
okay.
So does that need to be
No,
Things
tabled?
could change, but
That makes,
Is there a motion? Does that require a
you
motion
don't,
to table?
someone can file a motion to pass it, but if they don't, then
Okay,
it just goes in the
it just goes to the next item.
Is there any concern, do we have to do like 3 readings of the
No.
appropriations or anything
No,
like that?
appropriations ordinances are never subject to the 3, well, they are subject to the 3 readings, but they're never subject to, well, they are subject to 3 readings, but you can waive them. When you waive them, they don't normally become effective immediately. So you can just go ahead and pass them with one reading. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
So you don't have to do that. There's no time issue here.
Point is that the appropriations in front of you are what will be for discussion next month. So whether it would be passed tonight as a first reading, or whether we would just push it off and vote on it next time, it's not gonna change. So that can be digested over the next 30 days.
And to be clear, it could be read 3 times, but it's not
It has
necessary.
to be passed by the end of November.
No,
But for,
this has to be passed by the first meeting in January.
but
Our
for,
practice has been to pass appropriations by the council meeting in November.
It's true, but under the statute, it's not required until the first meeting in January. But I mean, why wait till the last minute? I mean, it can't be passed too early, but it can be passed too late.
certainly don't want to run up against a time frame of, a time crunch. However, I just wanted to pose the question of, even if the appropriations may change based on the outcome of the election and the levy passing or not passing, would it benefit us and perhaps the public of, having that transparency of what is going into building our budget by proceeding with a first reading, even if it changes between the first, second, or even the third?
That's up to council.
Just to weigh in on that, that was the reason why I wanted council to see the packet, and it's on the website. Everybody should see the financial packet. If nothing changes, we'll pass it then, but it's up there for everybody to see. Anybody has questions, they can reach out to Eric or myself.
Yeah.
And we could go through the lines with them and explain to them how the budget is built and what, if they have any questions, especially Eric, keep him busy. So therefore, it's up and everybody should go ahead. I request everybody to look at it, and council should have looked at it. So when we get to the final draft, I mean, this is final unless stuff change, we can pass it then.
Is there any downside to having an initial vote on it tonight?
There's no downside to that.
I think I would like to make a motion that we proceed with the first reading of the appropriations.
I'll second it.
All right. I prefer the motion to read it by title only.
I'll second it.
Did everybody vote on that? It was the first and the second?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
vote on it first, correct.
If no more discussion, roll call, please.
On which motion?
I'm sorry, there was a motion to read by title only by Mr. Fisher, a second
No,
by Ms.
before that,
Mayo.
no,
Before that, there was a motion to
Proceed with the first reading.
To read it.
proceed with the first reading. So does that go before motion to read by title only, and therefore you just have to read it?
Mine falls away. 'cause there's no-
Yours falls away. Okay, I'm sorry. That's it. Okay. So. Okay. So does it have to be read and then the roll call? Is that how it goes?
Yes.
Okay.
That's me. An ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Gulfport during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025.
Was that to be read in full? I lost track there.
Yes,
So it
that's-
is
so
by-
we did it
it is
full
by
roll.
title only, even though we're gonna do it 3 times.
Huh?
It is relatively short, it's like this long, but everyone's okay for roll call?
It's just got lost.
Go ahead and read the rest. It's just a little bit like, we've gone
Whereas
this far.
council did previously approve and submit to the budget commission a budget for revenues and expenses for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025. And whereas the proposed budget has been accepted and approved, and council does desire, can you slow down, to appropriate funds according to the budget to meet current expenses and other expenditures for the 2025 fiscal year. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the Village of Manor, Hamilton County, Ohio, that section 1, commencing January 1st, 2025, and for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025, in order to provide for the current expenses and other expenditures of the village, the sums detailed on the attached schedule are hereby appropriated as if such schedule is fully set forth herein. Section 2, this ordinance shall take effect the earliest opportunity allowed by law. Passes 20th day of October 2024.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Dr. Fisher.
Yes.
Ms. Mayo,
Yes.
Mr. Michelson.
Yes. It's passed as a first reading.
Thank you, everyone.
So, sorry. The next is 2024, Resolution 2024-16, resolution accepting bid and authorizing the village administrator to enter into a contract with John R. Jurgensen Company for the Golf Manor Community Building Site improvements. I believe Mr. Perth had discussed this earlier.
Any questions? At either rate, proper rules of order are to put forth a motion and a second prior to discussion. Is there a motion?
Let's start with a motion read by title only.
Correct, you already read about that.
I did.
But you go right.
I did. So let's do that first. Motion read by title only.
Motion to read by title only.
Second.
Retract.
All those in favor?
Resolution number 2024-16, a resolution accepting bid and authorizing the village administrator to enter into a contract with John R. Jurgensen Company for the Golf Manor Community Building Site improvements. Now that it's been sufficiently read, might have discussion.
Finance did give its blessing to council to go ahead with this.
It was also a fair amount lower than what we were anticipating, so good cost savings.
We have also built in an $8,600 amount for contingencies, so we don't have to come back to council if there are change orders and that type of thing.
So, yeah, this had to do with the salt bins and the driveway, it's not called sewer, it's called stormwater runoff. Right? Make sure it's all draining properly, not bleeding our salt supplies.
Bringing us in compliance with the EPA.
Any questions? If not, I'll ask for a roll call.
We need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve resolution 2024-16.
Does this need to be passed as emergency, regular, three readings?
No, it's not being passed as emergency, but we only need one reading.
Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Mr.
Ms.
Goodman?
Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Dr. Fisher, Ms. Mail,
Yes.
Mr. Michelson.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Next.
Next, I've got resolution number 2024-17. I'm not going to read it. It's regarding hiring special counsel.
Motion to read 2024-17 by title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 2024-17, a resolution authorizing the hiring of Jeff Shoskin and the the law firm of Frost Brown Todd regarding labor and employment issue as special counsel.
Any questions concerning this?
Is that regarding the documents that we have that we had in our space earlier today for tonight's council meeting? This letter from Frost Brown Todd is
Correct. Yes.
That's the contract.
Okay. Is this the first that's being brought to full council? That's my understanding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was brought to executive.
Okay. What is it?
It's legislation that allows us to contract with a specialist attorney that just deals with HR matters. So like, for instance, if there's an employee that's having health issues and council members have questions about how to navigate all that we would have a specialist that can answer those questions for council specifically.
And at a quick glance, since again, just got this, and as I sat down, looks like the rate is $400. Do we have an estimated amount of hours that we will need? What's the anticipated overall expense? What parameters are in place for this?
Yeah, so as it has been discussed, our plan moving forward with it is to collect any questions that council members have specific to this particular issue that's going on. And those will all be collected by me into an email that goes directly to the specialist, presuming that they know what they're doing, Wouldn't expect that to take an hour for them to respond to our questions, but maybe an hour, which would be the $400 cost. They respond back to us by email. And then if we had any follow-up questions, that could potentially incur another hour, right, in terms of sending another email to them. So
No, I know how billable hours work, but what my question is, what has been the discussion in terms of like the anticipated costs to the village?
right.
Like,
So
Are we
that-
talking 20 hours, 100 hours?
As I was just explaining, that was thinking that's like two emails, so potentially 2 hours. I would think that it would not be going over $1,200. I don't think we'd even get close to that. But we have them on retention. I'm thinking that initially it's just an email, all right? And then if there was any kind of emergency that came up that required us to have a specialist that we could reach out to, that again, we'd follow that same procedure. We're making sure everyone has their questions in one email so that we're reducing cost on that.
Okay, so the parameters for resolution 2024-17 in terms of the financial impact is the equivalent of 2 emails equating to 2 hours, but no more than $1,200?
We specifically did not put it in there. We specifically intentionally left it wide open, but that is my guesstimate based upon the questions that I've heard from council members that they wanted to have answered.
Okay. So it could be $1,200, it could be $25,000, and we don't have a mechanism in place.
The mechanism in place is that your mayor would put a stop to that. Right? We wouldn't spend $25,000 on this.
Yeah, no, I don't feel comfortable writing essentially a blank check for something like this, especially not having the opportunity to process any of this information at the moment. Yeah. What other, so I guess, what other information is there to help me feel more comfortable with this?
You could talk to the chair of executive. That might get you more intel on it. Most of the discussions, because it's a matter of personnel, it's been discussed in executive session, which we've had at our full council meetings as well as in the executive and in the finance committee.
Gotcha.
So that,
Yeah.
I think that's what the issue is.
And I may be mistaken, but a lot of the issues that our solicitor deals with is also on retainer without any sort of limit. So it's in line with what we currently already use for legal counsel. It's just allowing us to work with this specific individual who has this specific specialty that it's been brought up in a number of meetings recently that it's something we need more specialization on to make sure we're in compliance with the law and we keep everything above board. So it's really not any different arrangement than we currently have with legal counsel. Like we could, call Rob, 20 hours a week for the next, 5 weeks, and I'm sure he'd be thrilled with the billable hours, but, there's no cap on that either. So.
No, and I understand that, and I understand how billable hours work. It's just, we also already we do have a village solicitor. We do have an attorney, and I know that, this would be in addition to.
It's actually not really in addition to. I've dealt with employment issues with regard to police department and other village employees.
Yeah.
So it is part of my job.
Okay. Is it the opinion of the rest of council that we are leaving this uncapped? Like, are we doing it like if, a month from now, we are seeing well beyond $1,200 in fees that are being accrued? Are we having a touch base? Are we having updates? What is the communication that will take place?
my expectation is that we'd be having executive sessions ongoing to address any time that we're having a conversation. As I said, that there'd be an initial one, an initial email, and then if there was any follow-up questions from the response that we got back, and then anything in addition to that would be if an emergency occurred and council would be made aware if an emergency was occurring. They would be aware of that.
How much is our retainer?
I believe it just said 400, is if it's not listed in there. I don't,
It's also,
it'd be listed in the contract, yes.
it's also my understanding that all communication is going to be going through mayor,
Correct.
so
Yeah.
there's not, multiple people reaching out to
Right.
council. It's an
Right.
aggregated, question session.
Right.
Which also limits communication that's happening. If all the communication is going to one person.
Right, yeah. Could we amend this resolution to put a cap to be re-examined on a monthly basis so that we can closely monitor this approach?
We certainly could. I know that one of, yeah, we certainly could. That'd be the short answer on that. Because it involves an employee with health issues. I think the idea behind this was that we didn't want it coming before council all the time for the privacy issue with that. But the short answer is absolutely, we can review it monthly in open council.
Or an executive session, whatever works best
Yeah.
to maintain discretion, but
Right.
That,
no.
it's not really a matter of
Should we
personnel.
go into executive session and talk about this?
I put forth a motion to go to executive session to talk about matters of compensation for employees.
Second.
I was gonna do that at the end, but yeah.
So
But we can't
do you
go
wanna-
further until we have a
Right.
full
Do
conversation.
you want to
Yeah,
table this to the, because you're going to have to come back to vote. You
Right.
have to stop the stream.
That makes sense. Everyone okay with just tabling this particular one until after we have the executive session at the end of the meeting tonight?
There's already a
My
motion and
I
second.
take back my motion.
Okay, there's no longer a motion.
I put forth a motion to table this to the end of the meeting. You're asking good questions.
Yeah.
No, I know. Thank you.
Okay. Next thing I've got is resolution 2024-18 regarding participation in the Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement Fund. I won't read it by title until somebody asks me to.
Where are you up to now? I lost
Is there a motion? It's the
18.
last one there, 2418.
a motion to read by title 2024-18 by title only.
Resolution number 2024-18, a resolution authorizing this village administrator to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and/or local transportation improvement programs and to execute contracts as required. This right now specifically regards Mayflower Avenue. I think Ron had talked about it earlier.
Sorry to be a stickler, was there a second on that motion?
To read by title only?
Ms. Mail, did you say a second? Did I hear you say a second?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
All in favor?
No, right. All you
Because
need is
it's
motion
actually-
second on that,
It
right?
says
So you were
15 on
good.
our paper.
All in favor?
You were good.
It's,
All in favor? All in favor?
Okay.
One
One more time. One more time.
It's been read.
Serious. Resolution number 2024-18. A resolution authorizing the village administrator to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and/or local transportation improvement programs and to execute contracts as required.
This is listed as 15 in your packet. The numbering was incorrect, so it was moved to the end to 18.
On the agenda, it's listed as 18.
Trying to figure out which one.
Any explanation needed with regard to this?
financial Financial Committee gave its blessing that it should go forward.
Any further detail requested?
I'd be happy to offer that.
Yeah, for the folks at home.
So this is a application to do the next major street project, which would probably be in mid to late 2025, early 2026. Mayflower Avenue has had a lot of utility construction. It's Swiss cheese in spots right now. The curbs also need to be replaced, so this would be replacement of the water infrastructure, replacement of the curbs, replacement of the pavement, and would go from Lasandaville to the Cincinnati Corporation line. At this point in time, we're not incurring any expense. This is just to put this out there to OPWC to see if we qualify for a 50% grant of the cost, and then a 50%, the other 50% would be a 20-year no-interest loan that we would get from OPWC, which is how we funded our other street projects. This is included in the street levy expenditures that are anticipated for the next 2 years.
Any questions? Is there a motion to pass?
That's Mayflower.
Motion to pass resolution 2024-16.
18. Is there a second?
Second.
No further questions, roll call, please.
Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Dr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Meow,
Yes.
Mr. Michelson.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Executive committee report was,
Excuse me.
sorry.
Mayor, there were two other items that were on my report regarding rules of council. One was the executive committee proposed an amendment to the rules of council regarding bringing legislation to the village solicitor. And then there were two suggestions made regarding the conflict of interest policy. I don't know if all of these got to you. Did everybody get the suggested amendment to the rules of council?
Other than what was posted in the council packet and online, there was no specific.
Well, that was,
No, it's in.
this?
Yeah.
That is the suggested language. If it's a rule of council, it can pass, amendment to the rules of council can be passed by a motion of council. That's all that's necessary. I can read it if you'd like me to.
So for folks watching at home, the background on this is that there was a request that council members provide a listing of their outside interests so that there'd be more transparency.
No, that's not it.
No?
No, the
This is
idea.
not the conflict of interest one?
No.
This is, okay. I
The
apologize.
first one we were addressing is an amendment to the rules of council, which puts a procedure in place for council members, committees, the mayor,
Oh, yeah.
to task me with preparing legislation during research.
Correct.
Um,
So the proper context of this is that we didn't have anything formally written in place other than that anybody can, any council member can come to the attorney to ask for hours of research. And council had raised the issue of let's constrain costs with regard to that. So can we have some rules around what would be the proper protocol to be approaching the attorney for something that might be generating hours? And the response was that we put that over to the executive committee to discern what that would look like. And the executive committee made a recommendation, which was put forth to council by way of this change to the rules of council.
When this was originally brought up, I stated, and I still believe this, that there was a rule suggested that legislation, research, et cetera, had to go through executive committee, and the executive committee said it didn't go to me. The problem with that was it eliminated the ability of elected council people, because there are non-elected people on the executive committee. But regardless, It eliminated the ability of elected council members to bring legislation to council, which is, it's against the charter. The charter says any member of council may bring legislation to council. Now, having said that, this language actually does allow both to happen. Because, and this has happened before, where a member of council has said, I've got a piece of legislation. They wrote it themselves and they said, I'd like it to be voted on tonight. There are varying degrees of success with that, but this language allows that to still happen. So if you go to your committee, you go to executive, you go to whomever, and you say, here's what I'd like the council to vote on, and it doesn't pass per the language here, individual council members can still bring their idea, their legislation to council. They don't have to. The difference is I won't be writing it. They'll be writing it themselves and proposing it. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. Controls the costs by putting, some limit on what can go to me, but still allows individual council members to propose legislation without anybody else having any control over it.
And if council members want to bring legislation to the attorney, they can either do that through committees or through, as a group of three council members in a group of three council members.
The
a couple
mayor
different
through the
things.
administrator, through 3 members of council, or a simple majority of a committee, which includes residents too.
Right,
It doesn't even have to be
right,
just
right.
elected members of council.
So that's the current amendment to the rules.
Right.
Any
Let me
questions on that?
read it real quick.
Yes.
Council members may individually bring any proposed legislation to council for discussion. That's tier one. You want it to come to council, you write it up yourself and you bring it in. The next controls, preferably, the legislation will first be brought to the appropriate committee for discussion and consideration. Council members shall only use the village solicitor in crafting legislation, legislative research, or other billable tasks with the approval of the mayor or the village administrator, or by 3 members of council, or by a simple majority of a committee. So before I do anything, I need to know that it came from the mayor. I need to know that it came from village administrator, or the village administrator, or 3 members of council, or a simple majority of a committee. Otherwise, I don't do it.
Is this replacing language in the current rules of council?
I think it's supplemental language.
Okay. Because we did have a very big discussion about a topic maybe tangential to this one, about having access to the solicitor so that if there is a question on something, the request doesn't have to go. If I, as a council member, have a request or a question or a clarification, whether it's regarding a piece of legislation or not, I have unfettered access to you as the solicitor, and the mechanism that is in place to ensure that that right is not abused is that we were going to get reports on your hours on a monthly basis, which we haven't gotten, and that's okay. Like, it's in the reports and that's fine, but we've not made a concerted effort to go, okay, because of this process, we've been looking at, an uptick or a trend or whatever it looks like. And so just making sure that that is not replacing the access that we would have as a potential legislator.
It certainly was not intended to. I remember that conversation, and I was the one, I stated I thought everybody on council should have the ability to call me whenever they want, on whatever issue they want. That's not the same as calling me and saying, hey, I need an ordinance, go ahead and write this. That would be addressed by this.
Okay. So as I'm reading ordinances for its application and I have questions, I'm still able to reach out regardless of what.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we're monitoring those, and anybody has the ability to do that, but we're monitoring that expense to make sure it is not abused.
Right. Well, right.
Should we put a
Is that
spending
what we're
cap on
bearing?
Yeah, I mean, it does say any billable task. So if somebody were to reach out to the solicitor without having the approval of the mayor, administrator, 3 members, or a simple majority, that should
But
be.
a billable task to me is research or something like that. It is billable when I get a phone call and somebody says, hey, I got a question about X. That is billable, but they're not directing me to go do research on it. Does that make sense? In other words, they call and say, hey, look, I got this ordinance, does it address this? Or even I oftentimes get calls from council members saying, hey, a citizen called me and asked if we have a resolution or some area of our law that covers this. And I say yes or no. Or how to handle something with a citizen.
I just want to make sure that this supplement is not going to be in direct conflict with what we currently have.
I don't think it is. I think these are two separate issues altogether.
I would defer to the chair, unfortunately, not being here, but I would defer to the chair of executive on that because I know that this legislation was recommended by executive committee and I was there for a lot of those conversations. I don't recall whether that specific potential conflict that you're bringing up was covered in those.
As the person who kind of wrote the framework for it, it was just, it's written, I mean, I concur with what Mr. Butler said, that it's talking about legislation, it's talking about legislative research, and it's talking about sending the solicitor to go do things on your behalf, not say, hey, can you tell me what this means? Or, hey, what's the effect of that? Or, hey, you know, where's this kind of coming? It's sending him to go do a task on behalf of you, the council person, or on behalf of the village without, you know, proper authorization and consideration.
In regard to the question about spending caps that were raised earlier, I know that this whole legislation was brought about with concerns for spending caps on legislation. So if what we're talking about is just unfettered access to talk to an attorney, to have something explained, should there be a spending cap on it that's reviewed monthly?
I mean, I think since we never really got like an onboarding or anything like that to walk through some of this, then I don't, I think a lot of these questions are a result of that.
This honestly comes up quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, every 2 or 3 years, the issue of access to me, how to handle, you know, what limits are there to this, it comes up.
I think unless there is a specific concern of where that is currently happening, I'm not sure, because we haven't been doing the process that we originally agreed to at the beginning of the year, to where we are pointedly looking at what your fees have been, to where we can see if there has been an abuse. I don't know that we need to change. I don't know that there needs to be a change there for the sake of making change. And actually, I would maybe motion that we table this particular, what is this resolution?
It's not a resolution,
Amendment,
it's
whatever
really
it
an
is.
amendment, which would be passed by motion.
Yeah, I would make a motion to maybe table it into the next meeting or until more clarity can be given around.
Well, I think, it sounds to me like what you want to make sure, maybe you want to address it, but you want to make sure that it doesn't conflict with the language that already exists.
Yeah.
That addresses who can just call me, contact me to talk about issues.
Yeah, because my other question too is with all of the changes that have been on committees, how many council members are on executive committee right now?
I believe 3.
Or at the time that this was written?
4.
There are 4.
Okay. So that is another concern, that if we are putting a process through where legislation specifically is the preferred method, which is the language here, is going through the executive committee,
That's not what it says. It's through the appropriate committee.
the appropriate committee, fine.
So it can be finance, it can be community engagement, it can be any of the
Community Economic Development.
Whatever legislation passes. If legislation passes.
Yeah.
My committee.
But whatever the committee that it is going through, since we have kind of like packed the committees with, 4 of 6 council members, I would just be a little concerned that's for these purposes that it is perhaps preventing things from coming to full council and it's exclusionary by nature.
So this rule of council was inspired of a single member council basically introduced an ordinance without, to my knowledge, talking to any of the other 5 members. And when that came to vote, it was a no, basically from all the members. And it would seem like even hardly any context. Like, did anybody know about this? Where did this come from? And so at that point, it was money essentially that we paid to Rob, and it got no support from council. So in this case, when you have at least the support of 3 members or a simple majority of committee, it does increase the likelihood that whatever's presented is passed, and then we're not just giving our money away to this guy.
I resent that.
No, please.
We get to talk about the conflict of interest form next. But that's what inspired this.
Thank you. So there's a motion to table this. Is there a second?
I'm okay tabling it until there's a clarity.
All those in favor, because this doesn't require because it's just it's a motion.
It's a motion.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just a motion to table. It's not even a motion on amending the rules.
Right. So any further discussion on tabling this matter?
I don't think we should table it. We've been discussing it for a few months now in executive committee. We've been discussing it in council. It was in council, got referred to executive. We discussed it in executive. In executive, we workshopped the language. We changed the language. We brought a lot of considerations into it, modified the language due to those considerations. And I feel confident that it doesn't limit anyone from bringing anything. It states in the first sentence, any council person can bring any legislation they want to full council. And they can totally do that. All this does is gets everyone on the same page. It helps with transparency between council members and between the administration and the mayor and council members. And I think it's a pretty straightforward change to our rules.
And all I'm asking for is more time to process it so that I can become more comfortable with it before casting a vote.
Any other discussion?
What I feel the part that is up for discussion is the part that is not stated in this amendment, and that's when someone wants to use the solicitor just to find out information and all that. That's the part that is up for conversation and that we need to get clarity on. What's written here, I think, is very clear. That's not the part that we have a conversation on. The part that we're having a conversation on the rest of it. And that's a very fair question, and it could be brought up in executive if we should write something on that or just leave it what it's currently in and what the current understanding is. But what this is saying is very clear on another question, and that is, how do I bring something to the table when I want to write a legislation? It's not when I want to find out information, it's when I want to write a legislation. I think this is very clear. What is unclear, I think, is very good for you to have a discussion about it.
Yeah.
But this has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I just, having not, like, since I am not on executive, I never was, I'm not on executive, I'm not, now that it's coming to me for a vote, I want to at least be able to go back and do my due diligence on, what those conversations were, check the minutes, that kind of thing. Connect with the chair of executive to get more notes there. So yeah. Just asking you to table for more time.
Anybody else like to express their opinion or
I agree with him. Like, I don't want to
further
table it.
discussion? Is everybody ready for a vote, or is there more that needs to be said?
I just feel that if there is anything that has to be changed, we can change it at the next meeting also. It's not, it's just the,
One, I just wanted to review it under 5.02, the solicitor, legal advisor, he is the legal advisor of an attorney and counsel for the village and for all officers and departments thereof in all matters relating to their official duties, and shall, when requested, give legal opinions in writing. So, if you want an opinion from me, according to the charter, you get it. You don't have to go to anybody else. then the rest of it is reviewing contracts and so on. So I think it's pretty clear that the rules can't overrule that part of the charter, that individual members.
So that's an ordinance, correct? Not a charter.
No, it is in the charter.
Codified ordinances.
And where it is, it says council's filter. Yeah, I got that. Thanks for bringing that out.
Any other questions on this motion? There's a motion on the floor. So I'd call for a vote on it. I'll go by roll call, given that there's, I want to be clear on
This is
a
a,
motion to table.
right, okay, roll call for tabling. Ms. Brewer,
This is the motion to, table. Yes, I would like to table.
Mr. Fisher,
No.
Dr. Fisher?
No.
Ms. Mail,
No.
Mr. Michelson?
No.
All right. Is there a motion to pass?
I'll make the motion to pass.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Mr. Britnoff, roll call, please.
Okay, Ms. Brewer?
No.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Dr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Mail,
Yes.
Mr. Michelson?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Any other business?
There were these two suggestions regarding conflict of interest policy. One was the mayor found a template. I modified it for our purposes. And then there was another conflict of interest disclosure form, which I believe Ms. Crimer prepared.
Ms. Crimer's came first, and then.
Right, well, I didn't mean it in any order. She did it. It's second in the packet. So, and these two would be adopted by rules of council and by way of a motion. Now, sir, the first one is rather long, and I know it's the first time you've seen that. And it may be the first time you've seen the conflict of interest disclosure form. So these may be documents you might want to sit on for a little bit.
Yeah, the form, at least in its present format, is the first.
Mm-hmm.
And just saying, in its present format, it's the first, because we've changed it a few times around.
For context, for folks at home, council had raised the request that there be an amendment to the rules of council where we have a procedure for dealing with conflicts of interest, and that everyone sign basically a form at the beginning of the year when they're coming in as a new council member. I think it might have been stated as just every year that there's a form that you sign that states your affiliations, so there's more transparency around potential conflicts of interest that could be occurring. Chair of Executive Committee digested this with the committee, created a rough draft of what a form might look like. We discussed all that. What I put forth was a procedure that would define terms, and then also a procedure to move forward in a council meeting should a conflict of interest come up. This wasn't something I came up with. I found a template online that for how these things can be dealt with. I did not put in the form that's attached. Was that with the template?
That was with the template.
Okay, so with the template, there was a form. So I guess if you have two separate things before you, you have a procedure, and then you have two forms. The form was just the one. Excuse me. There's a form that was presented by Ms. Kramer, or I should probably say by Executive Committee, and then there was another form that was just part of this template. So that is what you have before you. And because it is the first time that you're seeing that, it makes sense to me that you guys would take some time to digest it rather than trying to do it this evening after 9 p.m.
We finish our meeting at 9. But I'd also like Brittany, the chair, to
Correct.
be in on this, because she wrote I think she sent the disclosure. So I know she wants to get it passed. She don't have to wait another month. It's especially with that policy that was news to us.
Right.
I think it would be.
That was, I believe I gave that to her, but yes, I agree.
you? Okay.
I agree with the sentiment. I believe that the
I
chair
have
should
some
be
questions on
point
this
on that.
that I'm confused about.
Sure.
So, nothing like different things that just don't make sense to me about. So I think that I would like to go through it, different parts of it, just to be clear on it and not waste everybody's time. So therefore, I'm gonna put forth a motion to table it.
This is the conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second
Yeah.
that.
All right.
Policy.
I have a bit of discussion just on that. I think it would be beneficial, and I think I'd be interested to hear what the other members of council's opinions are. Since there is state legislation in place that surrounds a lot of this, and I know it was stated as like an addendum or an addition to the current state laws, what those differences are. What's actually being added on top of state law and what's current state law, just for more clarity on it.
That makes sense. I think there's state laws around what, yeah. So
There's a whole body of law.
Yeah. Good. So for clarity, this would be tabled until next meeting, presuming it would be discussed more in executive, and those who are interested in that discussion could attend the executive. Yeah, that's
discussion.
what's being
Yeah,
proposed.
that's discussion.
Do you think by that next discussion we'll be able to know the differences?
That would probably have to be assigned to the solicitor.
Yeah, is that something we would feel comfortable doing or not, considering our new rules of council we just passed?
Right. Well, why don't you discuss it in executive, and then executive can make the call, or three of you can make the call right now to ask for it. What I'm thinking is if executive is discussing it, you'll get more finely tuned, or as we discuss this, we'll get more fine tuned about what the solicitor needs to answer specifically.
Fine tabling, and we can always just talk offline individually.
But ultimately, I'll leave that as your call. So you're wanting me to sign both of these have been approved? Yes.
So there's a motion, a second, there was discussion. Is there continued discussion?
Are you guys ready for a vote on this about tabling?
Yes.
All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Brewer?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Dr. Fisher?
Yeah.
Ms. Mail?
Yes.
Mr. Michelson?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Anything else? Ms. Feller?
Oh, no, sir, other than we have the 2024-17 that we're going to address in executive session.
Correct.
We are gonna have to schedule that for another evening. We are at 2 hours now, y'all.
Before
And
we
we still
go,
have committee updates.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'd like to make sure that she's voted on tonight, or at least has the opportunity to.
Yeah, so moving on to the next item on the agenda, executive committee.
Okay.
So my understanding is that the report is attached. Has anyone been assigned to read the report or present on behalf of Ms. Kramer?
I have
No.
not.
I did not see an attached report.
Do not see.
It's in the addendums on the website.
I don't see it there either.
Nope.
Did I miss that? I thought it
I
was.
saw.
It's only administrators and recreation.
Oh, okay, so then I don't know.
All right, so we don't have it.
Did she,
She's.
I'm sorry, I don't have a report.
I did not see a report.
Okay.
All right, can that go in the email, for minutes, that it's followed up and attached and da-da-da?
Presuming it was submitted.
Did she submit a report?
I did not see a report.
I never received the report.
Oh, cool,
So I
okay.
think we have to follow Ms. Kramer on that.
Perfect.
Motion to excuse next.
All right, so planning commission, the next scheduled planning commission meeting is to be determined.
A quick question, we do have a new member of that commission that's been there for several months now. I think it would behoove the rec commission or the planning commission to get a meeting scheduled so that they can incorporate this new member and figure out what work needs to be done, if any.
It's up to the commission, right?
Who's
I mean,
chair of
I-
the commission?
There is no chair at the moment.
There is nobody.
All right,
So
so
the
then,
planning
Not
commission?
since they reorganized.
Yes,
Council
you haven't
also,
even So that we have
Council also
officers.
needs to appoint someone to the planning commission to replace Ms. Cheney.
As a liaison.
So I think the last one, I think I was voted for that. Yeah. Signing, yeah. I vaguely remember that, yeah.
I don't recall who was
You are-
elected to
I'm
that.
a liaison, yes.
Okay, all right. So I think the sentiment of the council is, despite the fact that they're independent, that the fact that they don't have elected leadership right now, they should have a meeting
Okay.
ASAP to at least get their leadership settled.
Okay.
So if you would pass that along to them.
So it would be helpful to have somebody from council appointed to the commission before they meet.
As a member or as a liaison?
Yeah.
As a member,
Do we have a nomination? You were saying there is a nomination?
Isn't that what Ms. Mail's position is?
I'm the liaison. I didn't think that
That's-
we should put council members on a commission at all.
Correct.
Is that wrong?
That's-
No,
the
because,
charter states that the planning commission has to have a member of council as a member.
Okay. That's not.
So it's not necessary to have a liaison then?
No,
It's the same thing. That's what I
It's the
was
same,
saying.
it's the same.
Okay, then that's me, sure.
It's,
Just calling you
Motion
something.
to-
Yeah, I was like,
Motion
Should
to
we-
modify Ms.
Because I don't expect to be a
Mail's
voting member.
appointment from liaison to,
but she's not a liaison, she's recreation. She's
Y'all
a
was both
in the
liaison to
same meeting.
recreation,
She's talking
it's a
about,
separate
for
committee.
the clarity and for brevity, why don't we have a vote that reconfirms, or a motion for a vote that will reconfirm that position, so that we know that the commission is full of members, and that this body would like you.
motion to recertify Ms. Mail as a member of the planning commission.
Is there a second?
I'm not seconding myself.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Brewer?
Sure.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Dr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Primer? I'm sorry, Ms. Mail?
Sure.
Mr. Michelson?
Yes.
All right, thank you, everybody.
So you're now on planning,
Yes.
you're now on planning.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, yes. And so,
So they, in planning, once they convene, will elect their chair.
Okay. Right, yeah.
and we would request that. My feeling is that the commission, if they don't have leadership, should meet as soon as possible to make sure that that's resolved, so that it's easier to, anyone then who has a question can go directly to their leadership and they can stay independent that way.
Okay.
Let's see, community engagement report. Sorry, yes, correct, community engagement report.
All right, community engagement report, we have 3 key updates. We've got, Dr. Fisher and I are working on getting the framework set up for the Free Store Food Bank Mobile Pantry, more information to come on that. There will be service opportunities for students, and again, working on broader opportunities for students. More to come in the next community engagement meeting. We have a Buy Nothing swap scheduled for Saturday, March 23rd from, I believe it's 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That is posted on our Facebook page. We will look for volunteers for that as well. It was very successful last time. Hopefully we have that again this time. November
You said-
23rd.
I was wondering.
Yeah, why we're doing.
What did I say?
March.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, November 23rd, it's on the website. And then, community cleanup, we have supplies from Keep Cincinnati Beautiful. And a post will go out this week of a very informal, just every Saturdays in November. They can come residents can come sign out supplies. And we will be looking into a broader partnership with Keep Cincinnati Beautiful to designate zones within the village for beautification and cleanup and going through the Adopt a Spot program. So next meeting is November 18th here in these chambers.
At 6 p.m.?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions? Ms. Brewer? All right. Ms. Mail, would you be prepared to give a recreation commission
Yeah,
report?
I
as
got
is?
one. It should be online too. So the latest Recreation Commission meeting was scheduled for Thursday, October 10 at 6. However, they did not reach quorum, so that's now 2 months in a row. So consequently, their chair told the commissioners to start meeting on a different day of the week So now they're going to try for Monday now, November 4th. So it'll be straddling, or I guess it'll be before both of our meetings. So November 4th, Monday at 6 p.m. Also, Miss Stephanie Brown, who we voted on to the commission during our last council meeting, actually is not able to accept the seat. So just life happened within that last month, I guess. And she also stated that Mr. Victor Brown will also likely to resign. So I've asked him to send a formal letter of resignation to the village. So now we will need 2 commissioners. So action items before we leave tonight, we need somebody who takes the seat that Ms. Stephanie Brown couldn't take. So I'm here to nominate Ms. Patricia Laslinell, Laslinell, I cannot say it. Please pronounce your last name. Laslinell. I'm looking right at it. Now, she's also a We Thrive co-navigator and will be sitting in those meetings, so this should help them meet quorum because she's already scheduled to be there. Wearing 2 hats. And then we'll also need still a second member to replace,
Victor.
yeah, once he gets his letter officially in.
Correct. Okay. Thank you for attending tonight. Would you like to say anything about your background or interest in it?
Well, my background is I just recently retired from the Council on Aging after 20 years and got involved with the different classes that we're having here at Golf Manor. Saw a need for more communication to be done, and because I've been here a while, my mom's been here a while, and we didn't know all these things were going on. So we're really interested in participating and getting to know what is going on in our community.
Excellent.
And I'll say most recently, she was selling concessions at the movie night for about 90 minutes or something like that. So we put her to some use. We
Got a
worked
chance
her.
to meet a lot of folks in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for volunteering your service. Is there a motion to,
So there's a motion by Ms. Mail. We
Yes.
need a second.
is there a second? All right. Roll call, please.
Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher.
Yes.
Dr. Fisher.
Yes.
Ms. Mail,
Yes.
Mr. Michelson.
Yes.
Welcome. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
Sorry you had to stay here for 2 hours.
No, that's
I
all right.
never thought I
I
was
got to learn a lot of
gonna be
stuff. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I mean, we're almost done. You might as well hang out.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
Finance Committee report. Dr. Fisher,
Everything.
or excuse me, Mr. Fisher.
Everything that came up, I think we previously discussed, and I did throw in my comments as we're going along with that. I mean, what we discussed and the report.
All right, very good. Let's see, so we're at the end. I can go ahead and make some announcements here. If there's any other announcements, please be aware of those. Executive Committee, is this data correct?
Yeah.
Executive Committee is, these are not correct?
They're not correct. They're on the 18th, and I believe the times are flipped, perhaps.
Yes.
The executive was supposed to be at 6 and community engagement at 7.
That's the community engagement at 6 and executive at 7.
Okay,
Okay.
and what about the Finance Committee? Is that the correct?
Finance is on the,
Full council peer correct.
You're correct. Okay, so Executive Committee will next meet Tuesday, November 18th.
it's Monday.
Monday, November 18th.
Sorry, everyone. Gosh. All right, Executive Committee will next meet on Monday, November 18th at 7 p.m. Community Engagement will next meet Monday, November 18th at 6 p.m. Finance Committee will next meet Monday, November 25th at 6 p.m. Full Council, November 25th at 7 p.m. We had decided to have an executive session at the end that must be passed by roll call. There's been sentiment of not having that and tabling it. There are 3 items which were having to do with personnel and matters of compensation that I was requesting to give, that I would like to give an update to members of council about. I can hold that minus questions that could be tabled for 15-minute executive session at the most.
Motion to
And-
move into executive session for matters of discussing personnel.
Second.
And I believe it has to say matters of compensation as well. It just,
Well,
Does that
personnel compensation.
include the conversation we're gonna have around resolution 2024-16?
it does, and
That's the conversation.
but,
Yeah. Okay, just wanna make sure.
all right. So roll call, please, or there needs to be a second, I guess. Is there a second? You seconded it? All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Dr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Mail,
Yes.
Mr. Michelson.
Yes.
Very good.
We're closing out the stream.
Have a good night.